We are live. Well, I am live. Today's broadcast is on a pretty much open topic discussion type situation. I'm not gonna go all organized and have specific topics I really want to discuss. I'm really going to talk about things that interest me, such as cost of gaming in general, and the overall state of what's really going on in the industry lately. There's been some new articles that I've seen recently discussing interesting topics, and we'll get into that as the cast goes along. Obviously, right now I am solo. I invited others. I had a few guys say maybe. I had a few others say yes, they would be coming in. So we just continue and we'll await. If somebody shows up, great. No one shows up, then that's fine too. This is my first original cast. I've never done this before, so this is something new. If I'm doing things incorrectly, well, I'll learn. Obviously, sometimes you have to try and do things yourself, by yourself, to learn from those things, right? From any mistakes that you make. So I'm not going to stress out. Um, Today's the 23rd of June, 2015. And what's the first thing that we're going to talk about? Team sizes and budgets. As you can see here, a game developer conference chart that was, it appears that it was created by Factor 5 at the time, before they were dissolved and no longer relevant. Pretty sure there's talent from that team out there that is relevant, but simply speaking, the team sizes and budgets, as you can see by the graph, it reflects the uh, explosion in cost to develop games. You go from the 16-bit era. Obviously, before that, you had the 8-bit era, and before that, you had the Atari and whatnot era, which is what I like to call. Obviously, I'm an 80s child. I'm a pretty mature gamer, so to speak. I'm not going to say I'm old, experienced. And you had the 16-bit era there. You had it looks like the 50,000 up to 300,000. Obviously, most budgets kept within that 50 and 300. So 16-bit, you had a explosion of creativity. We go from Super Mario World is a great example. Where Mario you got the cape and you were able to fly and traverse the stages. There was, you had the rotating screen with the Mode 7 and different effects at the time, and it was better animation overall, and it was it was a little bit more immersive experience. Obviously, I remember Super Castlevania 4, when that came out, was an amazing experience. There was just so many different games. You had better colors, better artwork, better overall, animation and effects, and it was just much better. But the costs were relatively, high. I mean, when you consider those games and the games that are produced today. Think about it. Uh, from the 16-bit era to the 64-bit era, the cost increased somewhat, but not that much. And from then you got from the 16-bit to the 64-bit or 32-bit era, you jumped into a new a new way of designing games, which was 3D or polygons on a 2D scene that made you think it was a three-dimensional world. It's still that way, but games went from approximately 1 million to 3 million. I'm pretty sure there was games that cost less. They cost less than 1 million, but generally speaking, 1 million to 3 million. From then on, as you can see, the examples here seem to be related more to what the Nintendo development costs were. Obviously, it'd be really nice to know what the Sony costs were, because developers at the time during the 64-bit era slash 32-bit were speculating or and stating that it was a lot cheaper to develop for Sony's platform, which is why you had such a an abundant amount of games at your disposal. So you had the 64-bit era where Super Mario 64 came into the scene, and you had nice graphics, big worlds to traverse, and different experiences. That's when I believe, if you ask me, in my personal opinion, that that's when I know you had Doom and all that before Quake, before they got to the N64, but I think GoldenEye was the premier shooter. That was the shooter that made it a mass appeal first person shooter uh, genre to be more of a mass appeal to consumers. Personally speaking, you had the four-way multiplayer, um, and it was an amazing experience. And these games, they were pricey. $1 million is nothing to scoff at. I know I don't have $1 million. I think twice before I put $1 million to develop a game, because you're taking a risk. It's a gamble. And that's with anything when you invest anything. So um, uh, from there, you have the 1 million to 3 million. The N64, obviously, I think a lot of it was a lot of the costs. If you think about how cartridges were its medium of choice, they were pretty pricey at the time. You could only fit so much on those little ROM cartridges, and overall, I think developing games for that system um, wasn't as bad as you would think it was, compared to the 16-bit era. But as we move on to I call it going back to the 32-bit era, because the GameCube is actually a 32-bit machine, but that's just getting too technical there. Either way, the game's graphics, you could see an evolution there. It wasn't anything revolutionary, but it was an evolution, because you had better overall uh, polygon models, higher rendering, higher better shadows. You had cleaner textures, anti-aliasing, all that, bloom effects and all that. And you had Rogue Squadron, and you had what was it, Luigi's Mansion, all these different games that came out. You know, um, Obviously you didn't launch with Mario 64 or any big budget Mario game, but you had a good idea of what to expect for that generation. But you can see that 3 million to 6 million, was it expensive for that time when you compare it to overall costs now? Um, I'm pretty sure most developers would rather have the 3 million, $6 million budget cost to make a game for the systems today. And be honest with you, if you look at the Kickstarters, you got the Mighty Number Nine. They had like what, around 3 million. You had the recent what do you call it, the Banjo Kazooie spiritual successor. Um, what do you call it? Get funded. Um, what was it called? Let me check that out real quick. I'm sorry, I just try to keep track with all these things, but uh, let me see. Let me see here. I forget the name of that. Oh, that copter game. What was it? It was right here. I had it. Yeah. So games back then, to develop a game, it was much cheaper to develop than um, what they're asking for today. And these developers, if you think about it, as as well as publishers, could could do a better job of controlling their costs. And there's no reason for these ballooning costs to keep on increasing, um, just for prettier textures and um, unsteady frame rates, because you're not getting a more polished, more stable experience, because the developers are rushing. They're rushing these games out the door, and it's sad because we as consumers, we spend a lot of our entertainment dollars, uh, and we don't we you know we don't really consider um, the waste that it that it consumes. Because think about this: how many people buy these third-party games um, uh, to just to play them for a few hours or a few minutes and then just give up on them because it's not what you thought it was? And yeah, I hear this all the time. People complain and complain um, about the games not coming out, and um, when they do come out, that ukulele. That's what it was, ukulele. I knew it was something like that. But um, you know, generally speaking, most fanboys, it doesn't matter what side they represent. I mean, um, they think that um, the games, when they buy them, even though they know they're going to be buggy and broken, they think the games are boring. I mean, seriously, and that's why there's such a big concern, in my opinion, why a lot of fanboys cry and moan about multiplayer not being present in many of the Nintendo games. It's because most of these people are lonely, man. They don't have um they don't. I'm not trying to beat anybody down, because they're lonely people. Many of these people don't have a choice, and that's just what it is. So what they do is just they try to get into a community, or develop a community, or create and join a community where they can feel like they are um, able to communicate with other people. It's sad because back then, you used to go to people's, your friends' homes, and maybe because I was a kid back then, go and enjoy the games over there. That's why most people didn't have both systems, like the Genesis and the Super Nintendo. They didn't have everything because back then, it was either one or the other. It was um, it wasn't something that you took for granted. And as it is now, gaming was something of a unique, pleasure. It was something that, not anybody could purchase, or could afford. That's why, if you think about it, um, uh, Blockbuster was so slow to convert from to the digital scene, from the brick and mortar stores, because most of us, we couldn't afford every game, and some of us, we would rent. You know, Blockbuster rent used to be able to go and rent your games. I don't know if there's any stores available for renting, because I don't rent anymore, because obviously there's so many ways to get a game now. It's not even funny. Um, so it's not a task. It's not difficult, and at the same time, these a lot of these games are devalued immediately, soon after they are released to the public. So, Blockbuster's business model, and I'm not gonna, harp too much on this, but their business model was in towards renting everything, renting hardware, renting videos, and video games, and and other things. But uh, you know, whenever games came out, what we did as um, gamers back then, if we wanted a game, we couldn't afford it, we go and rent it. And if it was a great game, great experience, we save up and purchase it. But back then, games. I mean, if you were a Nintendo gamer, you were paying $70 a game, 78, $75. Especially the Super Nintendo, and N64 days. I remember paying what, $80 for Killer Instinct Gold on the N64. Um, the RPGs from Square, they were pretty expensive. Obviously, Square wanted to make their money. But many cartridges weren't cheap. You're paying $70, $60, $75. And I remember when PlayStation 1 came out, the games dropped down like 40 something bucks. And the thing was that, PlayStation, gave the developers more of a profit margin, because the discs were much cheaper to produce and purchase. So whenever they printed their games, they weren't paying $25 for a cartridge. I don't know what Sony was charging them, but I'm sure they were charging them a pretty nice royalty fee for each disc that was printed on their system. But either way, they made their money, and the cost of discs to own for PlayStation were much cheaper. You were paying 40 something bucks, and um, excuse me. So the games, the purchase to buy a game back then, everybody complains about $60 games, but games weren't cheap back then. I remember that. So if you could rent them and you can enjoy them, or your friend had them, or let's say you had a Super Nintendo, your friend had a Genesis, you go over to your friend's house and play the Genesis. There was nothing unusual about that. So um, you know, going back to the cost of games, this directly reflected it. Look at the GameCube. The GameCube, the budgets were 3 to 6 million bucks, um, and you know, the cost of these games just ballooned up. Almost nearly double to the next generation, from the GameCube, PlayStation 2 era to the Xbox 360, PS4, excuse me, PS3 era. They just jumped. I mean, double automatically, and that's where they stayed at pretty much. And depending on the scope of the game, whether it's multiplayer or has a big marketing budget, the cost of these games. You're going to pay. Most of these developers, publishers are putting out anywhere between what, 20 and $30 million now. And this charts from the PS3 360 era, where Factor 5 was discussing the cost for their games. how much to expect for investment purposes. But um, a lot of people say Lair was the nail in the Factor 5 coffin, so to speak. And it's too bad because I think Factor 5, in my opinion, you could consider um, Factor 5 within the same context or the same scope or the same relatively similar talent wise um, reference to a Rare back then, not Rare today, because Rare's today is not what Rare used to be back then. And a lot of people don't realize that. You know the talent and get talent within the gaming industry is really diminished. I don't know if it's because the publishers don't care or they don't want it, but talent nowadays in the industry isn't what it used to be. And so the cost of games from the first generation of the 360 era to the PS3 and the PS3 era was relatively um, expensive when you compared it to the GameCube. And if you ask me, Perfect Dark Zero, uh, when you consider to what, let's say Halo 4, if anybody's ever played that game, there's a night and day difference there. But the costs were pretty high. Part of that was the teething, but let me see. Let me see if anybody's wanting to join the cast. Obviously, this is my first time ever doing one of these. The wife and the kid are in the other room. They left me here. Um, no interruptions. So, anybody feel interested in coming and joining this discussion? Obviously, like I said, this is my first time doing this, so I'm open. I'm open to anything. I'm open to discussing anything. Doesn't matter. So if you're interested, just hit me up or join if I've sent you a link. All right. And so it goes from 7 to up to 20 million for the seventh generation, but you can still attribute these costs to what the actual costs are now. Because if you think about it, with a recent announcement of Shenmue 3, where the developer tested the um, appetite of gamers for that type of game to be republished or recreated. Um, I think we can all agree that Shenmue 3 isn't going to sell gangbusters. It's not going to be, a GTA 5 or a Call of Duty type of game that's going to sell that well. Because I mean, quite frankly, the game Shenmue, when it first originally released on the Dreamcast, um, it cost what, 40, 50 billion, $50 million, excuse me, around 47, $50 million is what I've heard go around. And, you know, I mean, that's a lot of fucking money, even today. If you count for inflation and whatnot, you're talking about 70 million, approximately. And that's a lot of money. You're talking GTA 5 type budgets. And it didn't have a big marketing campaign or anything behind it. To be honest with you, I want to give that guy 1 cent. I want to give that guy 1 red cent, because if his budget was so bloated to the point where he had to create a game that cost that much back then in the 90s, I'm sorry. Uh, I'm sorry. I played the Dreamcast. I didn't have a Dreamcast. For me, I remember playing Soul Calibur. It was a great experience. It was the first time you could actually play a polygon fighting game with rotating camera and system, and it was unique for its time, and um, it was a clean. It was clean. It was a clean 3D image. It looked it looked good. I mean, if you ask me, I think the Dreamcast games looked a lot better than PlayStation 2 games. But that was the Dreamcast, and it was Sega's last hurrah, and it was poorly managed. That's another topic for discussion. If anybody wants to talk about that, we can talk about that. But I wouldn't give that guy any. I wouldn't give him a penny. I wouldn't give him one red cent because I don't trust him. And then and to do that bait and switch bullshit that he did with the $2 million original goal funding goal. I think that's being a little bit disingenuous, if you ask me, because if you're going to come out and beg, borrow, and steal, and ask people to give you a couple of dollars, so to speak, in video game terms, because if you can see, you're talking about 300,000 and 20 million up to 30 million for a normal game now. You're talking about a lot of money, and then these indie developers, they use Kickstarter. Um, a lot of indie developers use Kickstarter to do what? To get their game off the ground, because most of these indie developers don't have access to big publishers, or in other words, big publishers wouldn't even give them the time of day, and it's pretty sad because you got this guy now pilfering, I think, if you ask me, from the fan base, that the loyal fan base that has maintained a sort of respect for that franchise, which was, obviously Sega didn't believe in it anymore, or else they would have done something with it, or expanded it, or made it more mass, consumer appeal wise, and it hasn't, So going back, just think about it like that, because when a developer comes out, it doesn't matter who it is. Um, as a consumer, we always want to know what is next, right? We always want to know what's going on in the video game industry, what that will whet our appetites for the next greatest, you know, uh, experience, so to speak. But it's so disappointing now that we're even going back to uh, you know games that in the past, and praying to God that, or gods, whoever you believe in, that you know this type of game can be created and appeal to the mass consumer, because most consumers aren't gonna like aren't gonna like something like that, especially like the Western consumers, because most Western consumers, I mean, we can all agree, most Western consumers, which I am, most consumers are fickle consumers. Okay, they want to give a time of day to a Asian oriented type of uh, game, where there's just it's more Eastern focused, and the setting and whatnot. That's why like JRPGs don't get a lot of love, because people think that quirky niche type game isn't appealing to them. They want these dude bro experiences. I'm not trying to take shots at anybody, but generally speaking, most Western consumers want dude bro experiences, and a game like Shenmue isn't something that most consumers in the West are going to go for. Um, I'm going to open this thing up to the public, but hopefully this doesn't invite trolls. I mean, obviously, hopefully I don't have anybody trolling, but hey, whatever. It is what it is. I'll figure it out. Okay. Um, yeah, Shenmue. Shenmue. Listen, Shenmue is not a game that most consumers are in the West are gonna invest in. Okay, I see that game coming out, if it ever comes out, because I don't see Sony putting up $15 million to produce this thing. As broke as Sony is, and listen, like I said, I know my Sony. Okay, Sony back in the day, you know, when they had, you know, when they had their first PlayStation One release, and even the PlayStation Two, um, when Ken Kutaragi, the father of the PlayStation, if anybody remembers that, the crazy son of a bitch that held up the PlayStation 2, excuse me, PlayStation 3 up in the air and it looked bigger than his fucking body. There was even like memes going around with him and the PlayStation holding it up, and it was almost as big as him, and it was funny. It was hilarious because uh, uh, Ken Ken Kutaragi, he believed that people should get another job or work two jobs to afford the PlayStation 3. And and I'm not gonna lie, that the the image, I knew my memory didn't fail me. I just typed it in and I found this. Ken Kutaragi, as big as his head is, this fucking PlayStation 3, man. Oh my god. Now I don't know if this is an exaggeration here or not, but the damn thing was fucking big. Okay, PlayStation 3, when it first came out, the first revision, the first version of it was rather large, and under him, PlayStation shines. Obviously PlayStation 3 was successful enough for them to create a PlayStation 4. Why was he forced out? Because if you ask me, you know, this guy is as narcissist as can, as the definition implies, because this guy believed that he was God's gift to the world. Okay, but he was a genius. The guy fucking knew. He knew the business. He can he could he created the PlayStation brand into the juggernaut that it is today, and we can't forget that. You know, I'm looking at this fucking PlayStation 3 and his body and his. I mean, he's not a big guy. Obviously, he's most people from Japan aren't that big either. But I mean, relatively, when you compare it to him, it's pretty fucking big. But he was his ego was big as well. And Ken Kutaragi, during the PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 era, he built up a cash, how do you call it? Not a cash, but a equity, an equity reserve, meaning mental equity, actually, a mind share of the consumers that consume PlayStation brand um, products, like myself. That you know, that was the place to go. Experience everything, anything you want. If you wanted the JRPG stuff, you'd find it. If you wanted the action adventure stuff, you find it. If you wanted the niche, samurai shit, the samurai uh, warrior stuff, you'd find it. If you wanted the shooter stuff, you'd find it. That's what PlayStation was known for. Is the PlayStation 4 now what the PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 used to be? No. I mean, let's just be frank about it. It's not. It's not. As much as people like to dog on Nintendo, and I can agree, Nintendo's overall product offering is not balanced. Okay, let's just be frank about it. It's not balanced. It's not a balanced approach to consumer goods, and it's not a balanced approach to the video game market as far as mass market appeal. Because most people want something different. They want to try out those shooters as much as people hate them. They want to try out these Dubro type games. They want a Gears of War type game. They want basketball. They want baseball games. They want football games. That's a damn shame. There's no fucking football games. Pardon my French. From time to time I'll drop some f bombs, but that's just you know. Uh, just the way I speak sometimes, and I try to be, I try to speak the truth. I try to be, honest with my opinions, because a lot of my opinions are based in my experience in the video game, you know, um, entertainment. So, obviously that, as you can see there, if you've never heard of this guy, Ken Kutaragi, he is the father of the PlayStation. A lot of people talk about Yoshida, but Yoshida worked under Ken Kutaragi. Actually, I think Yoshida mentioned that he couldn't have waited until that motherfucker Ken Kutaragi left, so to speak. Um, but you know, um, Ken Kutaragi created a juggernaut brand, and the PlayStation 4 today, the PlayStation brand isn't what the PlayStation brand used to be in the first and second generation of that brand of the PlayStation console, and it's sad because it was amazing, and they gave him this gold PlayStation 3 when he retired, when he stepped down, as a consolation, prize, because what was it, $600, $700 for a PlayStation 3 when it first came out. He was telling people to get another job. It's the same shit that Don Matrick pulled when he was telling people that, oh well, if you want to play offline, if you want to play offline, play Microsoft games, you have to get you a 360. What kind of shit is that? You, you don't say shit like that to your fucking consumer base. It doesn't matter. It doesn't fucking matter what your opinion is, if it's the correct opinion or not. You have to appease people, man. You have to placate to people, and you have to say, okay, well, right now, Matrick could have said something similar in the lines of, well, we understand the overall, uh, you know, uh, disagreement about the PlayStation, excuse me, by the Xbox One not having, not being able to play it offline. But you know what, I can agree with that, and that's something, my team and our department and our engineers, we're gonna have to discuss on how we can improve that overall, experience, some bullshit like that. And that's, I'm not a marketing guy, but obviously, you know that's the kind of stuff that you have to say. I'm gonna tell you something. As much shit's Reggie's getting lately for, all the sidestepping, all the sidestepping that he's doing. Um, I mean, you have to agree, the guy, he knows how to bullshit. I mean, um, he's fucking. He knows how to toe the line, so to speak, and all this shit about the amiibo and all great relationship, great partnership that we have with Activision, blah 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 blah. You know, I mean, it works. And I made a comment on someone's video. I don't remember who it was. I try to be respectful to everybody, because obviously I want people to respect me, and when I say things. But something that um, I stated, it was on I think Damon Baker's the guy's name. He's I guess he's the purported third party chief, relations chief, or acquisition chief, or brand strategy or product strategy chief, or some shit like that. I don't know what he was calling himself. I don't remember off the bat, but I stated that, if he feels like, Activision Skylander with the amiibo introduction, or the amiibo uh, characters, the Donkey Kong and the Bowser amiibo character, Skylander version is a great accomplishment, then he should consider letting someone else do his job. I didn't say the guy should get fired. I say the guy should let someone else that wants to be more aggressive in trying to balance out the third party portfolio offerings to the consumer base that they have. He should let someone else do that. You can agree with me or disagree with me, but I'm going to give you my reasoning for that. This is my reasoning. During the GameCube era, there was a big, actually before that, in the N64 era, there was a big, big, big agreement within the media and even the financial analysts and the overall community there, stating that Nintendo had no support from third parties, and that their demise was soon to be, meaning that if they could not launch the N64 with more support than Pilot Wings 64 and Super Mario 64, which was their launch titles. People don't remember that. Those were their launch titles. That's all they fucking had. Okay. Did it? Did I mention any third party game in there? No. There was no third party game. And it took a while for games to come out for that system. A lot of it was because I'm going to tell you something. When the PlayStation brand was introduced to the market, where restrictions were removed, meaning the Nintendo restrictions as far as what type of medium you can use, like the cartridges, obviously all third parties had to purchase these expensive ROM cartridges from Nintendo directly. And two, the licensing fees were high. So Nintendo's licensing fees was high. Remember when I was mentioning that the N64 cartridges, I remember paying $80 for Killer Instinct Gold. You know, think about it, $80, and now we're bitching about $60 games. We're paying $80 for those games, and we're paying $80 for Super Nintendo games. So in the N64 era, when the PlayStation 1 era, and the PlayStation 1 and N64 era, and even to some extent the Sega Saturn era, um, games for the PlayStation brand, obviously the third-party publishers felt like, well, you know what? It's a less risky investment. Yes, the games are about the same amount as far as investment-wise to produce, but the cost of manufacturing and distribution and licensing and all that shit on the Nintendo side is too heavy for us. We want to make more money. We don't want to be static. We don't want just to make a certain amount of money. We want to make as much money as possible. So, a lot of third parties put their development efforts behind the PlayStation one, behind the PlayStation efforts. Um, and they still felt scorned by Nintendo Yamauchi's iron grip. I mean, think about that. If you're a third party that's displeased with who you're with right now, and it doesn't matter how many times you've heard that same saying, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Well, to them, they thought the grass was greener on the other side. They felt, okay, well, I can leave this little 5x5 compartment and go across the fence to the PlayStation side and have an open field, you know, to do as I please. And that's what they did. So they left in droves, and that's when it all started. A lot of people say, "Oh, third party was great on the 64." Yeah, but it took a while to get some of those games out, and a lot of those games that we got, they weren't that great, So, but obviously we had the Nintendo first party and second party games to tie us over, and obviously that was great. So, but third party didn't give us the greatest offerings. They were few and far between. And some say they attribute it to the cartridge, the limitations of the cartridge. I call BS on that. Go Castlevania Symphony of the Night and extract just the full motion video from the game, and you have about 100 something megabytes worth of space of store of use space on that disk out of 650 or 680 megabytes. Does that make any sense? No. So obviously that game had music in it. You can play it in your CD player. You can have a few tracks you can play But think about that. And the cartridges, obviously, Nintendo has their proprietary compression technology. They were able to fit Resident Evil 2 on a fucking cartridge. Um, and nobody thought that was possible, but they did that. So with the full motion video sequences. So it's bullshit. I think. And a lot of these parties, third parties that talk shit still about Nintendo, especially like Electronic Arts. In another podcast I was part of, you know, uh, one member mentioned that it was due to the fact that you had a Trip Hawkins wanting to play ball the way in his own court, create his own rules, create his own um, um, business model, and he always felt that oppression, that imperialistic uh, business practices of Nintendo, where he felt the restrictions, and he wasn't the only one with a similar sentiment. A lot of these third parties that are still alive, that overlook Nintendo, don't want to invest. They don't want to spend the money because they feel, well, you know what? We did that before. We played that game before. We don't want to go back to that. And so, the games from the PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 era were a lot cheaper, because the licensing, the certain restrictions Nintendo had, and you know, it took a lot more work. So um, it was easier to stay with Sony. So obviously, as every generation comes around, you have a new what? A new generation, not just of consoles, but you have a new generation of gamers. Okay? And so now you've had the PlayStation 1 era, where you had a bombardment, I call, of fucking games. Any fucking thing you liked, it was available. Okay? PlayStation 2, it was a continuation of that, but with more more social media aspects, such as you had the ability to even get on the internet if you wanted to, if you purchased a modem, and you can also do the voice chat stuff. It was it wasn't as you know robust as it is now. But then the PS3 introduced that. Social media came into existence, became more mainstream. Obviously, that was attributed to the Xbox business model. So then you got the PS2, PS3, the PS3 offering more social media, more power, but it was a continuation of Ken Kutaragi's development structure, meaning that he felt that, okay, well, now that you're stuck with me, you've been sucking off my titty for all these years, right? You've been sucking off my titty. That okay? Now you have to uh, continue developing my hardware, where you have to develop games from pure technique and developer skill. Okay, the PlayStation 3 was not a very easy system to develop for, partly due because of the subsystem, the memory structure. Okay, and also you had a cell processor that was a new form of uh, uh, processing code, so to speak. You had a power PC based single core. It was like 3.2 gigahertz, and then you had some SPUs or SPEs, excuse me, special processing engines or units, whatever they call them. And those were similar to special function units on GPUs, where those could process graphics and graphics code. And he actually planned on releasing the PlayStation 3 like with a just the cell processor, um, and force developers to learn how to create code to run on the cell processor that was uh, creating graphics. Okay, and well, and I guess they heard wind towards the end of development there, and that Microsoft was releasing, um, a system with a separate GPU, a monster GPU for its time. It was actually based off the, what was it, the 7,000 series? No, excuse me, the 1950 1950, excuse me, 1950 XT, or the XTX. Go back and go on Google and type that in. That's from ATI. Uh, they were ATI was the graphics chip manufacturer that swallowed up ArtX, who created the graphics chip for the Nintendo GameCube. And the 1950 XT was a beast because for its time, it was actually, I want to say that it was you could say it was like the first unified shader process GPU. So um, it brought around a different form of reproducing graphics or producing graphics into the scene, and obviously it was a hot GPU for its time. Um, you know, it it was very hot. It required a lot of power, but Microsoft took a gamble and put that in their system. That's why you had a lot of failures. It wasn't because the system was a piece of shit. No, it was just you had so much power, okay, within that small confined that confined system, that in order for it to dissipate the heat quick enough, you had to put bigger fans, better conductive material to dissipate heat, um, and better alloy or metals that would transfer heat quick enough to the heatsink to release it from from the system itself with the fans. And I think if you ask me, if Microsoft would have released a Xbox 360 double what it was originally, because if you guys remember, not only was the PS3 a beast for what it is to compare to today's systems, but the Xbox 360 was fucking huge. The original Xbox 360, the ones that always froze, yeah, those were monsters, and they were very heavy. Obviously, we know why, but that's what they could have done. So, but the PS3 was going to release without the GPU, dedicated GPU. So what they did was ended up re-engineering it really quickly. I'm pretty sure they didn't do a lot of testing for efficiency, because what happened was with the Rambus DRAM, the different pools of memory, you had was it the DDR3, I think it was, the Rambus DRAM, and the different caches, and it was miserable, because you had to rewrite your code for that type of memory structure when you were trying to do when you're trying to do your ports from the multi-port titles based off the 360. So you had the split memory, and then you were trying to compete against a system that was more of a. If I go back to the GameCube, where Nintendo had the memory access between the different systems, it was one pool of memory, one big pool of memory for everything else, and actually the Wii was a lot better designed because of that. You had a system on the 360 with 512 megabytes of memory, GDDR3, and then you have the split pool of memory on the PS3, and then on the Wii you had only 88 megabytes of memory. That's a big difference, right? Um, but if you ever played Xenoblade Chronicles on the Wii, you see how well that game was designed to take advantage of those resources. So this is too much technical jargon. I don't want to confuse anybody. I don't want to people people to fall asleep. But I always like to talk about that kind of stuff because a lot of people don't know that. They don't know. They don't realize the beginnings of where we of how we got to where we are now, and it's just a small snippet. Um, Hopefully, I'm able to join uh, another YouTube's members podcast this weekend, and we can talk and divulge more information on that. But for the purpose of my initial cast here, the PS3 was more difficult, so it required more resources, and there was a lot of delays because of that. Obviously the benefit of the PS3 was its large Blu-ray disc, but obviously the slow read speed of the Blu-ray disc required these games to do what? Be installed onto the system. Initially, they didn't really want to do that because when you install 25 gigabytes or so of you know software into your hard drive, you're taking a big chunk of space out. Especially back then when that PlayStation 3 was released, 500 gigabyte hard drives was a fucking huge hard drive. For most consumers. You know, most consumers didn't have but what 128 to 256 maybe. And I build PCs, so I'm still using two SSD, two 512 gigabyte SSDs in RAID, and for me that's fine. I don't need anything else. Obviously I don't like having to install things, but I understand the purpose for that reason. And excuse me. you know uh, Games have become so big now that you're talking about 40, 50 gigabytes of storage required just to install these games. And so the PS3 and the Xbox 360, um, you know, took a page out of the PC's book. And, you know, obviously, the closer you have data um, to read, the faster, the more effective throughput. Uh, you reduce the latency and increase your frame rates, and you increase your load times and all that, right? Simple, right? Simple, basic theories, right? So, game development budgets have increased so much, as we saw earlier from those graphs, and that was back then. That was what, when the PS3 release was 2007, I believe it was, six, seven. So that's what, 8 years ago. And you know those games that came out on those systems initially, or were being developed for those systems initially, um, those companies took a gamble. They took a big gamble. It wasn't something to be taken lightly. Factor 5, I don't know what the hell they were fucking thinking. Factor 5, if you go back and check out Factor 5's portfolio, there were they made some of the most stunning, most cinematic, beautiful, well done gaming experiences that you'll ever see. And it was disappointing to see them go. I really really enjoyed having those experiences, because you didn't see those. You didn't see those type of experiences all the time. And when those games came out, they were done. You didn't have any of these 20, 30, 40, 50 gigabyte patches. And I'm going to tell you something. If consumers don't wise up and stop this shit now and stop buying crap, okay? Just wait. The best fucking thing most people can do is wait. Just wait for the fucking game to come out. Let other dumbasses, other suckers, how, you know, early adopters is who we are. When you're like the first in line to buy something that just came out, hasn't been tested yet, hasn't been, you know, consumer tested yet. you're a sucker because I mean you're taking a gamble, and you're the one that's going to be the guinea pig for this product to be either corrected, repaired, or whatever, And most of the time, most of these games aren't repaired. I'm gonna give a great example: Batman Origins. Okay, doesn't matter if you have it for the PC, doesn't matter if you have it for the Wii U, doesn't matter if you have it for the PS3, doesn't matter if you have it for the Xbox 360. It is fucked up. Okay, it is still a piece of shit. Uh, okay, aside from the storyline, going back to the beginning of Batman and all that shit, whatever. He still got all these he still have access to all these gadgets and shit, but that's another thing for another topic for discussion. But that game's messed up. You know, when is Warner Bros. Gonna fix it? Never. Why? Because we've already bought the fucking game, and nobody's gonna get their money back. You lawsuit against this company for false advertisement. For some shit. I'm sure there's some legal jargon out there that you can you can use to create a case, because I mean the fact is they sold us some bullshit. The game is not is not playable. Okay, in its current form, you can't play that game without having problems. Okay, where it shuts down, the system shuts down, it freezes up. I can't tell you how many times I've tried to fucking play that game and it fucking freezes up, because you go like when you're going from one part of the map to the other section where it has to load up. It's constantly loading uh, the next section before you get there, and it freezes up. Or when you have when you're trying to battle and you get into some street fights where you have some random generated enemies, and that appear. It freezes up. And that is never going to get corrected until people wise up and say, you know what, I'm not going to play that shit. I'm not fucking buying no broken fucking games anymore. I'm going to wait for these things to get released. And if you're telling me I have to download a 10 gigabyte patch, I'm not buying that fucking game. If you're telling me I have to download a 20 gigabyte patch, I'm not buying that fucking game. 30 gigabyte patches. To me, someone with my experience, I see that as a Trojan horse. That is a way for them to dictate to us as consumers that, you know what, you're gonna take this DLC and we're gonna shove it up your ass, and you're gonna like it. Uh, this DRM is DRM is how we're gonna do business, and you're gonna appreciate it. So that's just how it is. Um, I wanted to talk about some other things. Let me see. There was a couple of articles here um, that I wanted to discuss, and I think it's important that to read this, because I found it over here. Okay. Um, okay. Nintendo explains why the Wii U didn't take off at launch. The Wii U's lackluster launch sales can be blamed on one simple problem: it didn't have the games to support it, said Reggie. The industry is all about content. No shit. Thanks, Reggie. Phil Zane told Polygon at E3 last week, I can map out why the Wii took off at launch. It had two killer pieces at launch: Twilight Princess and Wii Sports. Look at our DS business. Our DS business was okay, but it was the launch of DS Lite, the launch of Nintendogs, the launch of the new Super Mario's game, where that system sort of dramatically took off. The same was true for the 3DS. He continued the launch of Ocarina of Time, Mario Kart 7 fueled its sales. Bloody, 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 bloody. Okay. Uh, two things here. Thanks, Reggie, for letting us know that. Now, after the fact, um, especially early adopters like myself, who purchased the system with the understanding that the system was going to have killer games continuously released. Now I understand the business. Okay, I understand how business works, and it is nearly impossible. Okay, when you have research and development working, engineering these fucking consoles, okay, and the time frame it takes, and software to develop for it. Okay, you can't start too early for the software because you don't know what the final specifications are. And if you do know what the final specifications are, or the equivalent of those final specifications, you may not be able to get the performance necessary to achieve the visuals and the overall gameplay, um, and framework of that game, um, as you envision it. Because they meant the engineering team, in order for them to have kept that system as the size they wanted, and the heat dissipation, and the amount of extra cooling that it needs or whatever, they had to take certain risks and reduce certain um, um, performance. So I understand they can't have everything we all want. Okay, because Nintendo makes certain games and they have certain ideas on how they want to create their develop their business portfolio, and how they want to make how they want to create capital opportunities, right? Increase capital and revenue. So a lot of their games are geared towards mass appeal, right? Consumer consumers, the majority of consumers that purchase games aren't, like, quote unquote hardcore. I understand. It's the same thing with PCs. The majority of people that buy PCs aren't hardcore PC people. It's just a fact. That's why, like, the hardcore, these high end gaming rigs and shit. That's not the majority. That's the minority. And so it's a niche. It's a niche audience. It's the same thing with games. Games are developed for the mass appeal. So my concern here is this: if the next system is indeed going to be released next year, are they going to continue this same trend where they didn't have the killer lineup for the systems to sell to the mass audience? Not the hardcore, the mass audience. Because think about who purchases the system at its launch initially: the hardcore, which is why they were able to sell 3 million systems almost immediately. Okay? That's not happening now because you don't have the mass appeal. What happened here with the Wii U's lackluster performance after launch is that this company did not advertise the system as it should have. The system was advertised as a casual system. They told all of us at E3 2011, okay, and E3 2012, that the system was hardcore, going back to you know the Nintendo audience, the you know dedicated Nintendo fans or whatever. If you ask me, dedicated means hardcore. Okay, it's similar, right? Okay, mass casuals. So obviously, you make games for the mass audience. Let's just be frank. It just so happens that many of us hardcore fans enjoy them, and I'm okay with that. I'm not gonna cry about it. So it is what it is. And the thing is that um, Reggie could have worded that differently. I think he should have been up front with people and say, you know what, we're gonna have to do better marketing. We're gonna have to do better outreach. We're gonna have to figure out how we can get some third party support to fill in the gaps between our releases. That's what he should have said, and I think everybody here would have been pleased. We would have been very satisfied with him saying those two things. Okay. Uh, Mr. Fox, I sent the link already. Hold on. Hold on. Let me see if I can get in there. Oh man, that was 8:15. That was 30 minutes ago. Okay, let me try that again. I don't know why. I thought I did send the link. Hold on. Okay, Mr. Red Fox. Here we go. It is live. Hold on. Okay, here we go. So I'm gonna post it in my box here. Uh, okay, let's see. Should have posted. There it is. There's the link. If you want to get in, there's the link. I thought I was in. I thought I sent the link out. I did. So, okay, we are live. I am the only one at this moment. If anyone else wants to get in, there is a link available. Yeah, I've already sent the link. Okay, Mr. Red Fox. Let's see. All right. Obviously, I'm a noob at this. This is the first time I've ever done something like this. Obviously, this is the first show I've ever done, so I'm new at this. I don't know how to get on this thing. I don't know if Google's acting up or what the case is. However, I do know this. I used everything as Google had intended to get people to join. So I don't know. Okay, I sent the link out again. If you want to get on, it is open season. It is open season. If you want to get on, it is open. Okay, if we have a viewer there. If you want to get on, let me see. How do I do this? Q&A. There it is. This feature is disabled. How can I disable that? Let's see. How do you do that? Matthew West. Oh, okay, good to go.
I'm back.
What?
Or actually, I'm not back. This is the first time I've ever been in your podcast. I have entered the building.
You have entered the building.
I've entered the building.
How long have you been waiting? I didn't know if you were there or not. Was that you?
I literally dropped the question 10 minutes ago, and then I went and checked some other stuff, and then I guess you sent it, and then I popped in.
Oh, good. No, excellent.
I
Yeah.
I listened to some of your podcast earlier. How you were talking about how the PS3 basically started the. Well, actually, yeah, I would think the PS3 really started this whole increasing gaming budgets.
Yeah, absolutely.
More so than the 360, just because the
Uh,
360, like Double M06 said, the 360 basically Microsoft stole their architecture for their system from the GameCube, and the GameCube was very easy to program for. I
I
mean,
agree.
don't believe that BS from third parties. This system is hard. Nintendo hasn't had a hard system to program for since. I mean, you could argue the N64.
Yeah.
You could argue, but even then, that's bullshit because I mean, like whenever I hear a third party pop up and say, "Oh well, this system is hard to program for," look, if you can put some shit on a mobile phone, on a smartphone, then which basically calls for stripping out tons of features or downgrading graphics and stuff like that, then there's nothing holding you back from putting it on a console. There's nothing, except you just don't want to do it.
Yeah. The thought process that goes on now in the industry with game developers continuing to have these these out of control budgets. Because if you think about it, I don't know if you heard the Shenmue part. I talked about that early on in the podcast about how much this guy's asking for now, and then it went from 2 million to 10 million, and
Well,
how
he was lying the first time.
yeah he
I mean, like, here's the thing. What I will say about this video game industry is this: as time goes on, the dirty shit you do in the dark comes to light, right?
Mhm.
Like, everyone's dirty deeds are being seen in public. Like Koji Igarashi, his shit's coming out. Keiji Inafune, his shit's coming out.
Yep.
People got mad at Sega. Well, how come? First of all, and I'm just gonna, even for back then, the Dreamcast was a 6th gen console. Okay?
Yes. Absolutely.
It's a 6th gen console. You had games that were comparable to what the Dreamcast had that were made for cheaper than Shenmue. So, this dude's like, we need $47 million to make this game.
How the hell he got away with that, man?
Yeah, but there are other games. Hell, there was a game that came out on the PS2, which was also a 6th gen system, on the PS2 called Yakuza, that was similar in size to Shenmue, made by Sega. It's a budget title. It's made way cheaper than Shenmue ever was. This dude does not know how to budget for shit. That's his problem.
I wouldn't trust this guy as far as I could throw him. I think he's just trying to scam people, because the game's going to get released and it's probably going to be one of those like chapter based what do you call it, where they sell you like a
piece at a time.
Yeah, a few
chapter
you know
by
what?
chapter.
If you think about this, you remember Valve when they released
Half-Life
2?
2.3.
Remember how he wanted to initially sell that game in pieces? Like,
Yeah.
that was the business model they were going for. I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was because download speeds are so fucking slow at that time, or hard drives weren't big enough. I don't know what the hell happened. But that was their vision. That was his vision.
When it first came out, it was done in episodes, and they'd release an episode, and then they'd release another episode. But the difference that the episodes were like $10, $15, $20.
Exactly.
It wasn't really that expensive. I mean, okay, if like they have the Dreamfall chapters thing, you can understand on PC things being in chapters. But the thing is that this shit was kind of shady from the start. They're like, well, we need $2 million, and they had these stupid ass stretch goals that were real shady.
Yeah, I saw that.
You can get it in Italian, you can get it in French, you can get it in German. I'm like, these are some of the stupidest ass stretch goals I've ever seen before in my life.
But Mr. Red Fox, I think this is opening up the Pandora's box, if you ask me. If this shit's successful, let's just say it is. Let's hypothetically speaking, if this whole project is a successful venture, right, for Sony. How
Yeah.
much do you bet that most of their next fucking like titles, let's just say the next, just just to humor people, let's say the next Killzone is a fucking Kickstarter. Okay,
Um,
there's a lot of people that bought the fucking Killzone. I don't know if it was because
I,
it was the only thing that, and they were
it was
thirsty,
the
or
only thing they had. It was the only thing they had.
but there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that
It's
bought
like
the fucking game. You know.
it's like this. The way I feel about the launch games for the PS4 is like this. You ever seen the movie An Officer and a Gentleman?
Yes.
Like, you know that part where Louis Gossett Jr. is like breaking Richard Gere down? He's like, we'll just sit in it. He's like, I've got nowhere else to go. That's how it feels when I see PS4 owners. They're like, yeah, I bought Knack. I'm like, you really had nothing else to play on that thing, did you?
And they defend that purchase to the end, though. That's the most hilarious part.
I mean, I made some bad purchases when the Wii U first came out because there was nothing else. I got Assassin's Creed 3. That game is shit.
Oh, man.
Now, I beat it after like 4 days and then returned it and got my money back.
That was a snore fest, that fucking game. The character, the protagonist was just lame. They should have done better with.
It's not just that. It's like Assassin's Creed, believe it or not, even though Ubisoft keeps on trying to push it into being an open world game, Assassin's Creed doesn't do well as an open world game.
No, yeah, I guess you can. Yeah, it's really not open world because you're actually just like you'll get to a zone and it says, okay, do you want to continue, and then it loads up another piece. It's not like open world. You know,
when I say open world, I mean like how Ubisoft has been trying to push this shit into being an open world game. Because here's the thing, like, they give you this space, right? This huge playground. Well, I mean, that's the idea behind what they're trying to do, because they're trying to emulate an open world. But the problem is that when you have an open world game, you have to have shit for people to do that gives you rewards, but is not related to the main story. So you need to have side missions that actually are fun.
They don't feel like those side missions. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. The side missions in Assassin's Creed don't feel like you're fulfilling anything. It's like
they're boring.
It's just tacked on. It doesn't add anything or value. I understand some of them are necessary, but they just don't seem like you're actually growing the story, the plot, and all that shit. It just
Assassin's Creed 2, Brotherhood.
I actually enjoy those.
Those were good games, but they were tighter and more focused. But once they got the 3 and the main guy who made Assassin's Creed 2 left.
Yeah. He did left. Okay, he did leave. I didn't know that.
He was like, I'm tired of you, Ubisoft. He made his own game, and the sad thing is that, he didn't make his own game. He just left. I don't know what he's doing now. But Assassin's Creed, I mean, the combat itself is kind of boring. It's like, hey, okay, it's that press triangle to counter.
But you know what? In Assassin's Creed 3, what they did, they gimped the player. They gimped him. He didn't have the same it felt like you were fighting, but you weren't really fighting. You were like getting your ass whooped all the fucking time.
Well, I mean, it just wasn't like I'm just gonna pitch an idea.
If I'm gonna go out there and fight a bunch of soldiers and shit, and then I'm trying to fucking stab them and they keep fucking blocking me.
Yeah.
Like, that shit gets so fucking repetitive and boring.
Here's all I'm gonna say, okay? Ubisoft, you want to make a good Assassin's Creed game? Here's a pitch. Okay. Assassin's Creed, call it Assassin's Creed Rivalry, okay? Here's the pitch. It's set in modern day Japan, okay?
Okay.
Your main character is like a modern day ninja. He's not an assassin, okay? Now, you have this modern day ninja clan in Japan actually killing people in the modern day.
That shit would be fucking awesome though, man.
Okay. Now the game starts with your character like killing like 3 targets. On the 3rd target, like you go to kill this guy.
Oh, fuck.
And the dude starts using this weirve, like, he's got skills. And you're like, oh shit! And then he pulls out this thing, and you see the Assassin's Creed symbol on it.
Oh,
so you've got a ninja versus you got ninjas who were traditionally spies and assassins versus the Assassin's Creed Brotherhood assassin, okay? And you have this huge like the game, you make choices. Like you can choose to either join the Assassin's Creed guys, you can choose to stay a ninja, or you can say to hell with both of you guys and I'll forge my own path, right? Like you can use all those special abilities, you can do all that cool shit. That'd be awesome.
I like the first Assassin's Creed, where he came out of that fucking chamber, that little fucking time chamber, whatever the fuck, what was it, the
Abstergo.
the Esther what is it called,
I forget. Like when I played the first Assassin's Creed, I didn't actually start the game. My friend started the game, and I just started playing it. Like once you were in back in the past, and then I was like, this game's okay.
Yeah, I played part 1. I beat 1, 2, Brotherhood, and Revelation.
2 was fun. 2 and Brotherhood were great, but then Revelation, I was like,
I'll beat all 4 of them. They were fucking amazing experience. But yeah, obviously it felt watered down as you got through, the battle. It, like the story, the impact of the, of what you were actually doing and shit. And I like the fact that some of them, I think it was Revelations, where they added that last section where you're going through the little like geometry cube.
Yeah.
And it was like telling you who you were, and what the future was gonna hold. And
but wouldn't it be cool if you had an Assassin's Creed where where ninjas were fighting the assassins?
That would be, and like you're saying, like in Japan or something.
Yeah, like it's modern, but it's in modern day. It's modern day Assassin's Creed. Because the thing that I was like, well, stop taking us back to the past. I want to see modern day Assassin. How would they deal within the modern time? Like, the police are coming. They're more advanced than those dudes during the Revolutionary period or whatever. I mean, these dudes got to do some shit to get out of it, But then I was like, you know what? I don't want Ubisoft to do it, because they did Watch Dogs, and that was supposed to be their open world game, and that was terrible.
Oh man, I'm not gonna lie. I bought it at Best Buy. It was $12.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm telling you something. You saved a lot of money.
Saved a lot of money. There was a lot of suckers out there that bought that fucking game. Hey, if they sold 100,000 of that game, don't you think they made money off that motherfucker? They didn't have any marketing. Yeah, they didn't have any marketing during that
Look,
game.
let me put it this way: for just a downgraded port that they just slapped onto the Wii U, they probably made a little bit of money back. But the thing is that Watch Dogs was a disappointing game, just all around. Like I don't care what you bought it on. Like that's one of the most traded in games I've seen at my local GameStop.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Hell, even I know a mom and pop store that I get a lot of my imports from, because they have a really good line to get those types of things. Even they have a lot of Watch Dogs that have been traded in. I'm like,
really?
Damn.
And they take it, huh?
And they're like, we can't get rid of these things. They can't get rid of those shitty ass.
Hey, remember The Division was supposed to be released last year. They held that bitch back.
Because it's not working out. It's not doing what it needs to do.
I think it's too ambitious. They fucked themselves when they talked about when they started bringing up the fact 30 and 60 frames was the necessary. I mean, they screwed themselves, because when these developers start opening up their mouths and talk about what's necessary and what's not necessary in a game, and then when they have to fucking produce a game that's too overly ambitious like The Division, and then they have to start scaling back because they forget that the fucking YouTube history is still available for people, so you can go back in time and check out the time machine. you can see the fucking reality of the game, what it used to be and what it looks like now. It's
look, The Division was overambitious. Ubisoft clearly, here's what people don't understand. When Ubisoft took that hit last year with Assassin's Creed Unity,
that was the best fucking thing.
They lost a lot of money
to us.
They lost a lot of money because they had to give a lot of people who bought that shitty game 2 free games. I mean, that's money that they didn't have to lose. And here's the thing: Ubisoft isn't like Nintendo, where they keep their budgets under control.
No, they're not. Absolutely.
They they put a lot of money into Far Cry 3. They put a lot of money into that other game that I forget what Watch Dogs. I think it was Watch Dogs and Far Cry 3, and they put a lot of money. They had 800 people across 5 studios across like 3 continents working on Assassin's Creed Unity.
Wow. And you
I
know
have
what?
no idea. I can't believe it didn't work out. I mean, 5 different studios trying to communicate with each other, and
That must have been a clusterfuck, man. That must
exactly. I mean, there's no. I'm not surprised that shit came out the way it was.
But you know what? They try to be funny though. They try to be slick with their shit because they released 2 Assassin's Creeds that year. So they're basically they're telling consumers we're gonna feed you this shit and you're gonna like it. And if you don't like it, then go fuck yourself.
Well, they released Assassin's Creed Rogue, which because they understood the engine, and it's the same engine they were using for Assassin's Creed 3, Assassin's Creed 2. That game came out well, but the problem with Ubisoft is that Ubisoft grew too big too quickly, and they like Yves Guillemot. Like Ubisoft was
I used to like him. I used to like him when he was on the GameCube talking positive shit. When he was.
Well, the thing is that Ubisoft is a family-owned company. It's like Yves Guillemot and his 2 brothers started the company, and I think they own the vast majority of shares. I mean, I have nothing against the guy trying to make his company huge. Problem is that he's grown. The company has grown too fast, and they don't really have they don't have the type of leadership they need in order to deal with a company that's as big as it is right now. When Ubisoft was smaller, they could probably do what they needed to do, like focus on 2 or 3 projects and get it done. But now they're trying to. I mean, Ubisoft is falling in THQ land.
Yeah.
Right. Like they were a mid-tier developer, and now they want to be one of the big boys. And that. Listen, look, sometimes it's kind of like the sword of Damocles. You got that, it would be great to be king, but you always got to worry about someone killing your ass and taking your crown.
Yeah, they've actually stated in the past, I think Yves Guillemot has stated in the past that he wanted to be the next EA. And obviously that's, what is he talking about as far as making money, or increasing his revenue, or being ranked the worst fucking company in the world? I don't know which one it is. Or does he want to do?
Like I said, they're just too. They grew too fast. I mean, hell, even Nintendo grew a little too fast.
You think so?
I think that some of the things that are going on right now, like the disconnect between the American and the Japanese market, the communication issues, the marketing. That's because literally you've got like one dude trying to run these 2 huge markets. Now I will say this much: Nintendo has they grew, even though they grew too fast too. They're handling it a lot better than Ubisoft is, because Ubisoft really, if they have 2 or 3 more flops, they're going to be like THQ. They're going to be the next THQ.
Did you hear that?
That's going to be sad.
Did you hear about that Damon Baker's interview where he was talking about that now he's like the head third party acquisition relations and and also he's the indie program manager or whatever. What does that say about him, man? What is he really doing? He's a newer addition to Nintendo, right? He hasn't been in the company that long.
Well, he was working at Nintendo, and basically when Dan Adelman left, he took his place.
He filled the void.
Yeah, he filled the void. And I mean, here's the thing. I heard you earlier say that I didn't but here's what you have to understand. Third parties and indies are the same. It's just the third parties, when we think of third parties, are huge. So really, he is the third party. He is the third party. That's his job. Now, here's the thing. Frankly speaking, I know people are going to get mad. Oh, you don't have a Madden on your system. Look, if you have a PS3 or Xbox 360, you can have the same Madden that's on the PS4 and the Xbox One is the same Madden that's on those 2 systems.
I agree.
You are not missing anything.
I totally agree. But what I'm saying is that we can all agree that the majority of the Wii U owners are like hardcore gamers, like Wii U gamer,
Yeah,
Nintendo, right?
we are hardcore. We are
We're the
hardcore.
hardcore. We're the hardcore of the hardcore. So we know that Nintendo Sports existed at one time, right?
I remember it. I never really played them. I
Okay,
like
but
basically
there were great experiences, right?
for me as a sports gamer, the way
That's
I
just an
feel about
example.
sports game is like
Yeah.
this. Now I understand that the way I feel about sports games is like this. For me, sports games in my mind don't exist because if I want to play that sport, I would take my ass outside and play that sport. And I did as a kid. Like my friends, they had Sega Genesises, and I was like all they had were sports games on the Sega Genesis, and I was like, let's go outside and play football. And they're like, no, we can play Madden on the Sega Genesis.
Right.
I'd rather play the actual game than play a video game of the game. Although I will like the only sports game that I love, and it is the highest rated football game in the industry right now. Like people always want this game. It's not Madden. It's Tecmo Bowl on the NES, bitches.
Yeah,
And I love that game. That's the only
I'd have to
sports game
counter
that
that with Tecmo Super Bowl.
Tecmo Super Bowl is good, but
Remember
Tecmo Bowl
Super Bowl?
has that Duke and
Yeah.
that Bo Jackson.
Yes. You
I mean, you just see Bo Jackson.
know what? You know what? I'm gonna tell you something. Tecmo did something in those days. They did things unique in a unique way because the cinematics that they did. I mean, even though they were limited with the hardware and shit, but they fucking didn't give a fuck. They put games and in a different perspective, like sports games. Remember when they had the fucking basketball? Was it double dribble? Was it double
Yep,
dribbles? Remember double
it was
dribble?
double dribble. Yep.
And every time you went and shot up, or you went and did a layup, or you
You would see the cinematic, and the coolest thing,
it never got old.
for me
It never
is that
got
I would
old.
love a modern Tecmo Bowl. I would love a modern Tecmo Bowl because here's the thing: like when I heard about Joe Montana, even though I don't like sports games all that much,
Yeah.
like I'd rather actually play the game. Anything that just breaks that EA stranglehold on the football franchise.
Listen, man, I can't agree with you more because I'm gonna tell you something. I may not particularly play those games every fucking year, but maybe every 5 years I'd buy it to see.
Yep.
Maybe they progress, but they regress every year, from what I hear. So I mean,
Because
maybe
EA
I'm not
is
missing out.
lazy. They've got the license. They paid the NFL some money. They got the license. They can just put any shit out and people will buy it because it's NFL.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because I I used to play those games like you're saying, Tecmo games. And listen, I would love nothing more for Tech. If Tecmo could come back out and do some shit like that, that would be fucking amazing. Because we to Madden, because Madden's the same repetitive, you know, force-fed crap that we get every year.
And they don't even like the thing is like it's the same base game. They don't even add shit to make it fun.
They
I'm
don't,
like,
yeah, they don't innovate.
can't you guys do something arcadey or make like add a street mode, something to make this shit fun?
It's not fun.
Because how many times can I be Peyton Manning and throw the ball? And, oh, you got it. Oh, you went for the touchdown. Okay.
But you know what kills me with it? There's no balance with it. Meaning that okay, there's people that have figured out the glitches in those games because I'm pretty sure there's still the same glitch from five versions ago that they can fucking score like 20, 50, 20, 30 touchdowns on your ass and you never get a chance to fucking do anything. You know, it's like
well, not even the glitch. Not even the glitch. There are certain like there's certain plays you can run at certain parts of the field where the computer will just get kind of like how back in the day on Tecmo Bowl, like you figured out how to juke and you just even without Bo Jackson and just destroy the computer, the CPU. Same thing in Madden, but the problem is that was back in the day on the NES, which I can understand. There's no excuse for it now.
Sorry about that. Daughter came over here and gave me a kiss. Yeah, man. I mean, listen, man. I'm dying to see some unique, fun, exciting.
Mom said she would make them later.
something different. It's just. I
Well,
mean, it's like.
I bought Blood Bowl 1 and 2 off of the Steam sale.
Oh,
Blood
okay.
Bowl is an RPG based off of Warhammer, except instead of it being like Warhammer stuff, it's basically football. I mean, EA,
Hold
you know
up.
what EA could do to win my trust back in football? Bring back Mutant League. Bring back Mutant League, and I'd be good.
But what kills me the most is that you have these people every year complaining about Madden, but they continue making it a
Yeah,
best.
you buy it. You buy it.
They
I
make it
mean,
a bestseller every fucking year. And where the hell do all these fucking Madden discs go? Because most people return them motherfuckers after a month or so. After their favorite
I
teams
don't
out
know.
of after their favorite teams out of the Super Bowl, they go ahead and bring the bitch back to fucking.
I don't have a clue. Me personally, I would not like. I don't like Madden. I'm not a huge fan of it. I always gravitated towards the other titles because Madden always seemed like a lazy ass series to me. You know what I mean? Like I liked Blitz, the league. I like NFL Blitz. I like NBA Blitz. I mean, I like those games. Like Madden always felt really kind of like, we'll just dial it in and people will make money. Hmm. Well, I guess there's some other stuff going on. I guess before I kind of bounce when Poppy 2K gets back, um, I guess we can say that he's back.
What happened?
The industry has changed a lot. It's changed a lot, but I see a lot of parallels from back in the day.
Yeah.
In like before the third party crash, and that's what it really kind of was the third party crash.
No, I agree. I mean, the third parties, they're setting themselves up for failure because um
I mean, I don't want to see third parties crash though. I mean, because despite what many people may say, I actually do. There are a lot of third party titles and games that I like. I like Grand Theft Auto. I've always liked Grand Theft Auto, and unlike those people, like I only liked it when it became a third person shooter, a sandbox game. I had Grand Theft Auto 1 and 2 on my PC, so I'm an
you know
old school GTA fan.
I'm going to tell you something. You know what Call of Duty reminds me of? Counter-Strike. Like, remember Counter-Strike originally when it was released?
Yeah,
It was like a quick pick up and go game where like you respawn immediately and shit like that. That's what I feel like when I see Call of Duty. It's like, why do I want to play that if Counter Strike's already available and it's a much better experience? Not that I play that or anything, but it's just like I'm not a heavy shooter person, but I can understand how people would like that kind of game. It's just it's just the same experience over and over. And they talk all this shit about Mario. Man, I'm gonna tell you something. Mario 3 World is totally different from Galaxy. Nothing like it. Okay, so
no, but Galaxy is really good though.
I got both Galaxies. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
excellent games, and it's unique.
Like some people say that the first one's better than the second one, but for me, when they added Yoshi in the second one, the game really became even better. It was more focused. Like Galaxy 1 kind of had like a level and then they take something and they throw it away. But 2 was a lot more like focused. It was tighter, I guess.
You've heard rumblings around the YouTube community where they've said that there's like a Mario Sunshine re-release coming, and I'm going to tell you something. Back then, when Mario Sunshine came out, and I enjoyed it. It was different. It was you had to have an open mind. It wasn't the same. It wasn't like Mario 64, and that's what a lot of people were expecting. But I'm going to tell you something. I think
Mario Sunshine is a glorious game. It's really fun. It's very
yeah,
different from every
it's so
other
different.
Mario game
Yeah, it's
in
so
existence, though. It's very different. My only gripe with Mario Sunshine was the FLUDD backpack. Because I like pure platforming, and the FLUDD kind of like got in the way of me purely platforming, which kind of, I'm a purist when it comes to platforming. I like tight platforming.
So what do you? I mean, would you agree that if they re-released that game, let's just say they updated it to like Wind Waker standards or whatever?
Oh, I'd get it. I mean, I'd still get it. It would be awesome.
How many people you think be on that bandwagon?
Well, it depends. If enough angry people are mad at it, they might get a petition done to get it canceled. No digs at anyone. No digs. Basically, I think that it will sell reasonably well because the thing is that they already have the assets. I mean, that's the thing about Nintendo. They like Triforce Heroes. It could probably sell like 300. It could probably sell like 150,000 worldwide and break even. And it's going to probably sell more than that, and they'll probably make a nice tight little profit because they already have the engine. The engine's already. It's from. The engine is from Link Between Worlds.
Oh, okay.
So
those games. I'm going to tell you something. Nintendo's games. I know they have to create their own engines, right?
Yeah.
They don't like to outsource their shit too much because they don't want people, copying, breaking into their shit. They're very protective of their properties, and I understand why. You got a lot of copycats out there, a lot of haters that talk a lot of shit, but then they copy you. They copy everything you do. They talk a lot of shit, but they copy everything you want to. Everything you do.
Yeah.
And they're the first ones to copy it. It's
like I looked at Metroid Prime Federation Force. That game is Metroid Prime Federation Force is.
I think it's going to look different. I think they're going to change.
That game is built using the codename Steam engine. They had that engine just lying around.
Yeah.
Like, and even if it look, personally speaking, I don't care if they don't change a damn thing. Here's the thing, okay? It's a Metroid Prime game, which means we're probably gonna get a decent story.
It's gonna be a good game. So
it's gonna be a good game. I mean, you got next level games and Kensuke Tanabe. Yeah. Kensuke Tanabe makes good. All the Prime games have been good.
But Nintendo doesn't listen. Nintendo, John was talking about the other day, and it's so true. Nintendo does not prioritize their hardware, meaning that they don't have certain developers. Okay, you're only going to make little DS games. No, you're only going to make the big console games. No, it doesn't work that way. They all they're all susceptible to making great quality experiences.
Well, they rotate out. Like Monolith Soft's next game may very well be a handheld. I mean,
they're not biased against their handhelds over their consoles.
No, and that's why their handheld. And that's why their handheld is so damn. That's why their handheld's so damn successful because you're going to get damn good games no matter what. And I have some news here to share with everyone that I just looked at.
Okay.
Splatoon has sold 1 million copies worldwide after.
Shut the hell up! No, it's not.
Yeah.
That game was gonna bomb. It didn't have no fucking voice chat, Mr. Fred Fox.
That game sold 1 million after less than a month, and it's a budget title, which means it probably became profitable after 250,000 units sold. That was just in Japan. Yeah. Now. Everything else above that's gravy.
Red Fox, real quick, hold on 1 second. We have a William joining us. William, introduce yourself.
My name is William.
Okay. Do you have a handle?
That was rather ominous, sir.
I don't know him, but if you want to join in, you're more than welcome.
Great, thanks.
Sure. You have anything to add?
Well, that's pretty impressive with Splatoon.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a budget title. Yeah. Money. Like, if you go to the Nintendo Vault, they got Scrooge McDuck in there swimming in the yen.
Yeah, they're sitting in a real war chest.
Holy shit! One
Yeah,
million. Do you think that game was $20 million to make or 10 million even?
I think it's a budget title.
I
For
think it's about.
Nintendo, I don't know what Nintendo considers budget because Nintendo has always kept their budgets under
But
control.
those
Like
guys are
over budget for
celebrating.
Nintendo
Holy
is not
shit!
over budget for EA, Activision, or Ubisoft. So what they consider to be a AAA title for Nintendo, like it would be like double A for other for other companies. So I mean Splatoon is making AAA money, but it didn't take AAA bank to make it. Just the same as Mario Kart 8.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Wow. A million.
So
Damn.
yeah,
I wasn't expecting a million. It's not even been a month, has it?
no, because it drops on the 29th of May.
But there was so much uproar about it. Oh, it being lacking features, this and that, and it's like the game sells a million already.
Well,
Holy
here's
shit.
what you're gonna hear. Here's what you're gonna hear from haters. Well, it would have sold more if it had voice chat.
More than 1 million copies within a month?
Oh my god.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
the thing
crazy.
is that there are people who just like to hate, and there's nothing you can do. They're just gonna
Well, I
hate.
think
And
these days it's real fashionable to declare Nintendo on its deathbed.
yeah, even though they have like $10 billion just lying around, just and like they have $10 billion just lying around. They know how to budget their games. So a flop for Nintendo isn't a flop like it is for EA, Activision, Ubisoft. So like even if they just flop continuously for like 50 years, they would still be in business. Now then after that, then they'd have to start selling their IPs. And let me tell you something, their IPs are really valuable. Like they're up there with Disney IP.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. How much would Microsoft pay for Mario? Just Mario itself, just the Mario.
Microsoft would kill itself to get Mario.
You're talking about billions of dollars. I mean, it's ridiculous. But the thing is, you know what's so impressive? That the way the Iwata and a lot of people did like I don't know what it is. I don't know if because he's Japanese or Asian, and they just like the Western market just hates the guy or whatever. But the guy, if you think about it, he put some funding behind Splatoon. He put the marketing behind it because obviously
Marketing.
it would have
Marketing.
not gotten
Yeah.
a million without the marketing. Because I mean that
Yeah.
stupid ass commercial, the squid, the kid.
And
I mean,
they were smart with the marketing. Like
they marketed the hell out of this game.
they did targeted marketing for that
Yeah,
game.
but it wasn't like mass blitz marketing. It was just
No,
targeted.
and you know it's gonna sell because Nintendo games tend to sell long.
It's gonna
over
go
time.
about man. If it did a million now, it's probably gonna hit Mario Kart. I think it's gonna be
Yeah.
around Mario because Mario
Well-
Kart hit a million within less than a month, right?
Well, I was listening. Mario Kart hit 1 million in like a week,
Exactly. So
but Mario Kart 8 is an established franchise.
And it
A
had a blitz
million in a
market.
month
Yeah, it
for
had
an
blitz
unestablished franchise for a budget game and an
Yeah.
unestablished franchise is damn good.
Damn. So how much you think this is going to open up third parties? I mean, do you think third parties are going to see? What do you think? What do you think, Matt?
Man, look, third parties want that $10 billion that Nintendo just has lying around because Microsoft and Sony gave them blank checks to, like either blank checks or they said, okay, we'll waive your royalty fees or you can give us less money for royalties or we'll help you advertise the game. And like Microsoft and Sony did all throughout the 6th and 7th gen. So basically now, like third parties are used to it. It's kind of like if you have a kid and they're disobedient, and instead of you nipping it in the bud when they first do it, you let them slide for
Right.
like years. Like if you do that for years, they begin to think that's acceptable.
Yeah, it's
so
a common practice. Yeah, it's
when you finally
culture.
get to the point where you're like, no, you can't do that. They're like, what are you talking about? We've been doing this for 3-4 years now. And that's how it is with third parties right now.
So what do you think,
Nintendo
William?
was disciplined and was like, no, you can't do that. But
What do you think? Is this going to open up third parties' perspective on a different type of genre, different games?
they're gonna steal it.
Because they think
They're gonna steal Splatoon.
a lot of third parties think only dance games fucking sell on the Wii. I mean, think about that shit.
Look, okay, I know what you're talking about. Ubisoft's best-selling game is Just Dance. Like that's their moneymaker. But the thing is that the Just Dance audience is on the Wii and the Wii U. That's where the audience for that game is. So Ubisoft is kind of like between a rock and a hard place. They've kind of gone out of their way to antagonize the hardcore fan base of the Wii U, but you've got a lot of casuals on the Wii that are happy with their offerings. But the thing is like, you can't please multiple masters, and eventually Ubisoft is going to they're going to either have to start putting some games of a certain quality on the system,
Right?
Or they're going it's gonna have to be different, because Just Dance 2015 is hitting the Wii and the Wii U, and it has all of these added features. They're gonna have to start putting some quality games on the system.
So, do you think that Nintendo's going to go ahead and reintroduce their OS? I mean, re-engineer it, because I see them with the DNA announcement. I'm pretty sure everybody's already aware of that.
Yeah.
I think they're going to implement more social features. What do you think, William?
Well, it's probably a good idea because it's definitely been a weak point of Nintendo in their social aspect of their consoles.
Yeah.
Because
they've always been slow getting in on the online thing.
Yeah, I mean, the Wii U has, think about it. It has everything that you need for connectivity, right? You got the gamepad has a mic. It has speakers.
Yep.
You have Bluetooth. You have Wi-Fi. If you want to get the little adapter like I did for the LAN, for $15 off of Amazon, you can get that too. I mean, it's just got everything. I mean, and it's
well, they definitely upped their game with the Wii U in that regard.
Yeah,
they learned their lesson from the Wii, where you had these crazy codes for your friends.
Yeah.
Big long arcane codes. They made it a lot easier with the Wii U.
Yeah, what was up with that? I never understood that, but
neither did anybody else.
It boils down to Nintendo desperately trying to, Nintendo is the most family-friendly of the big three right now. Yeah. So
that's their market.
They have to put in restraint. Here's the thing: if I had a 5 or 6 year old kid, I wouldn't have them play on an Xbox One or PS4, because the Xbox Live is filthy. And PS4, you got the Playroom, where people remember when the Playroom first came out and people were doing stuff that you really shouldn't do except in your bedroom, in the privacy of your own home, in front of
the camera. Do you remember the PlayStation Eye?
Yeah, it was, so I mean, Nintendo has that thing, and here's the thing: they have to start reaching kids again, and I think Splatoon has really started it, because the thing is if you reach kids, they grow up to be people who don't think of, and Nintendo is able to keep relevant games with those kids that correspond with their age group. They'll grow up and not be like, well, Nintendo's for kids. They'll be like, they make some damn good games that appeal to different people. I still feel that way now. A lot of people saw Nintendo's E3 and they were like, this is horrible. I saw they had games for everyone.
Right.
They had core games for people like me. They had games for casuals, or people who just really like that genre that I don't like, and then they had an everyone game. So, I mean.
So, William, what do you prefer? I mean, what do you have any preferences, or you have any special interests, or I mean?
Well, I have 2 young sons, and they game on the Wii U, but I'd say right now most of their time is spent on my PS4 because they're really into Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare.
Yep.
I hear that's a very good experience, that Plant vs. Zombies.
It is, and it's good for kids too, because I've watched them play it, and I've never.
You don't worry about it.
Yeah, I've never come across it.
It's fun. It's a fun game.
Yeah. Did you guys hear about that incident that happened about 2 years ago with the girls, the Japanese girls in Japan, where Nintendo used to provide a feature on the 3DS. It was called Swap Note,
right.
where you can, interact with people, and you didn't have to have any special permissions or anything.
Yep.
And I guess there were some rapists or
Child molesters.
child molesters
Yeah.
were able to pretend to be kids, got boys
Yeah.
and got these girls. I mean, and Nintendo had to react quickly, and they basically
They shut it down.
yeah, they shut it down.
They shut it down.
So
And I mean, people got mad. They were like, "Well, Nintendo's taking." But here's the thing: yeah, Nintendo has to deal with their family-friendly image, but they're also a business, and they don't want to get the heck sued out of
I mean,
it.
I have a little girl, so I mean,
Yeah.
the last thing I want her to be doing is interacting with some fucking stranger out there.
Pervert. Yeah.
I mean, it's too easy. Think about it. These kids nowadays are so freaking sophisticated. They know how to interact with shit that you would have, like, back when you were a kid. You were like, how the hell are they doing
Well,
that?
we didn't even have it. Like, I remember when cell phones were, like, I remember when computers were a luxury item.
Yeah, of course.
Like, if you knew someone, they're like, yeah, we got a computer at our house. Like, really? You got a computer? I remember seeing the first cell phones, and they were like these huge, like,
bricks.
it was in a suitcase. It was in a suitcase, and then they opened the suitcase and plugged
Carrying
the phone.
around in a suitcase.
Yeah.
Built into your car.
The rotary phone was still in style
Don't let
back then.
someone have a car phone. Don't let someone have a car phone. It's like, you must be rich. No. It came with the car. But yeah, now, a lot of things are very commonplace and the convenience of it.
But how many parents are actually going to take the time to set up their parental controls on their system? Think about it.
Yeah.
And if you're like what's his name? William was just saying that his kids are always on the PS4. I'm pretty sure kids are logging in under your gamer.
No, they've got their own.
Okay.
Got their own accounts.
But that's because you took that extra step to do that, right?
Yeah.
How many parents do that? Actually do that? They don't give a fuck. My sister, man, I can tell you right now, she lets her kids play any fucking thing. Grand Theft Auto. I mean, Call of Duty and all this shit, and they're on there. I hear these kids, 6-year-old kids, 7-year-old kids on there, playing it, and it's like, and you know what's also, it also makes me laugh, man. It makes me laugh when I hear like
just a high pitched voice.
Yeah. But the majority of the players on these Call of Duty games are kids, and then. And they ridicule Nintendo because they said Nintendo's the kiddie console, but the majority of the fucking players are on the other console.
That is, And then the hilarious thing is that I hear, like, I don't own an Xbox One or a 360, but my friend has an Xbox One. Sometimes I'll go to his house and I'll play it, and I'll be playing Call of Duty sometimes, and you're playing it and you hear a little high-pitched voice say something horrific, and I'm like, do you even know what that means? Like, seriously, do you really know what that means? Some of their insults are really imaginative. I'm like, if I had said that to an adult when I was a kid, that adult would have slapped the heck out of me, and they would have been right. Like, my parents wouldn't have said anything to me or them after they slapped the heck out of me,
Right.
But
well, the funny thing about the 3DS and that the messaging was really geared to a location. Like with Street Pass, you'd get messages if you'd be in an area and you'd pass somebody else with a 3DS. And it's like, so it was really focused on location, where you were, which is, I can see would be kind of especially dangerous, trying to get some kids to a certain location.
Well, you have to remember, the 3DS was made... Nintendo normally thinks Japan first, every place else second. And some people get mad at Nintendo for that, but they're a Japanese company, and their soul is in Japan. And you don't want a company losing their soul.
Right.
Like, you don't want a company, like, one of the things that kind of disappoints me with Sony is that they've spent so much time trying to stick it to Microsoft that a lot of the games that we got when they were trying to go toe-to-toe against Nintendo, we don't get. Like, we don't get the Paw Rap of the Rappers. We don't get the Ape Escapes. Now, I love those games. I love Ape Escape. And don't get me started on Paw Rap of the Rapper.
You know that I was talking about that early on in the podcast about the PlayStation 1 era and PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
How it really. I mean, although they did retreat from the Nintendo platforms back then because of the ease of development, a cheaper platform overall, um,
Yeah.
and the ability for them to make, you know, a quick buck. Because think about it, you know, they could throw anything out there, and it was people bought it.
Well, it had over 100 million install
And
base, so
and think about it, man. All these different genres, right? Genres back then. No, you could play the PlayStation 1, and you could find any fucking thing you wanted to play.
that is true.
There was nobody bitching about, oh, you're on a 64. What the fuck is that? No, everybody played everything, you know.
No, but here's the cool thing. You had different offerings on each console. Like the thing that gets me now is that a lot of people brag about multiplex. I'm like, yeah, but back in the day, everything was either exclusive or you had a better version on one version or the other version, so you
Yeah.
knew which one to get.
Not
It was
this
like
paid
now,
DLC shit. Yeah, this DLC
it's
crap
like
that they have.
everything is the same thing across all consoles. So it's like there's no special effort made by the developers to make something like cater to a specific console, you know?
They don't take advantage of the hardware, first of all, okay? And two, there's no optimization at all for the base game. Because, I mean, you could play the same game, literally. Assassin's Creed 3 runs the same as it does on every other system, even on a PC.
Just the graphics are a little bit better. The corners are a little bit smoother.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no okay. One of my favorite N64 games back in the day was Gauntlet Legends. That was
I
a
like that
multiplayer.
game. Yeah, I like
Gauntlet
that game.
Legends was on the PS1.
And it was unique. It was unique on the PS.
The Sega, I think it was on the Saturn, or maybe it was on the Dreamcast.
It's a Dreamcast.
And it was on the PS1, the Dreamcast, and the N64. The best version of that game was either on the Dreamcast, but the Dreamcast did not have a huge install base, or the N64 version.
And you guys notice something that as the generations go on, how at the time of these consoles' life, like their current life, people ridicule. This is wrong with this console. Oh, this got too many problems. Or this control is too fucking big. Or there's not enough this, or there's not enough of that. And then it sells, like the Dreamcast sold poorly, or the N64 sold poorly, or the GameCube sold poorly, or even now the Wii U is selling poorly. But the generation isn't over. But the thing is, 2 or 3 generations down the road, how much do you want to bet that there's gonna be fanboys saying, "Oh, I missed the Wii U. How great it fucking was! It had the best fucking exclusives and
That's
this
because
and that,"
nostalgia.
and never supported it. Never fucking supported it.
That's nostalgia. Everyone always does that. Like, people look back and they're like, man.
How about the GameCube? Remember how they used to make fun of the GameCube because it looked like a lunchbox?
It was the lunchbox.
Nobody
but
wanted that
I'll
purple
guarantee.
fucking
I'll tell you this much: it had some of the best games. I still boot up my GameCube, or actually, I don't boot up my GameCube. I boot up my Wii. That's also a GameCube.
Yeah, no, that's amazing.
See, that's the biggest thing. People say, well, the GameCube sold so poorly. Yeah, but technically speaking, the Wii, which sold like 155 million units, is also a GameCube. So really, it would have just fooled people into buying the GameCube.
Yeah, that's what I was telling everybody the other day. I said the GameCube sold most Nintendo's highest selling consoles.
177 million sold, technically speaking.
If you're not savvy enough, you're not going to understand that joke because the GameCube and the Wii U use identical hardware. It's the same hardware.
Yeah.
All they did was up the clock speed on the Wii because they shrunk the process node down. But the thing is that the Wii was overpowered. I mean, for an SD system as it was.
Yeah.
You know, technically speaking, it could do a lot more, but you know, a lot of developers chose not to. And
they did lazy ports.
Yeah, right. Look at Modern Warfare. Modern Warfare was it Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3 on the Wii itself looked identically the same as it did on the 360, save for the textures, the lower res textures. The game looked and played identically. As a matter of fact, some would say or argue that playing it on the Wii with the Wii remote is a better experience. I mean,
Well, I think it was the Wii version of I forget which one of the Call of Duties was the highest selling Call of Duty, and that was the year that the BG charts decided to split how much things sell. Instead of saying like they split how much something sells by console and not by like how much it sold, because like, you know, there's always that stigma from a lot of developers that Nintendo systems are kiddie, but I mean, to be fair, I mean, when you've got a lot of kids playing Call of Duty, I mean, you know.
listen, you're never gonna stop the fact that kids always want to be big people. They always want to be adults. They always want to be playing the same game that daddy's playing or that mom's playing, if that's the case. Take my child for example. I downloaded that game Cube Life, Island Survival. By the way, that's a phenomenal game. If you have a few dollars to spare, get it. You're gonna enjoy yourself. And I'm not a big, what do you call it? Minecraft guy, but the game is absolutely amazing because it gives you the sense of desperation, anxiety. You're trying to create a way to survive with the minimal resources that you have, but you're trying to survive the night from the cannibals and the island people that are living there.
So it's a Minecraft clone.
It's a Minecraft clone.
But we're never going to get Minecraft on the Wii U because never going to get Minecraft on the Wii U because Nintendo will not give a royalty to Microsoft in order to license DirectX whatever.
Yeah, but like I was saying, my kid, she wants to play that game all now because I'm playing it. So if I put in Splatoon, she wants to play Splatoon because I'm playing it. If I start playing my Xbox, she wants to play my Xbox because I'm playing it. You see what I'm saying? It's just that's just the mentality. That's just how children are. And the fact is that when you say, oh, well, the adult system is the PS4 or the Xbox One or whatever, and I mean, yeah, if you got the adults playing, that's what the kids want to play. So the kids are going to be on that more than anything else, obviously computers, have come a long way as far as technical specifications and their capability as far as what kind of graphics they can display. But it really boils down on how much do you want to invest. And like you were saying, and you alluded to the other day, Mr. Red Fox, that your computer was top of the line last year. It was a beast. And this year is just another middle of the road computer. And you can still play the games; they look nice, but are you going to be able to play the next wave of high graphic intensive games at
let me put
high
this way.
settings?
Anything that hits these current gen consoles, I'll be able to play on my PC. Right. Without having to add anything. And I'll be able to play them better than they run on the PS4 or the Xbox One.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying.
The kicker is if I run into a PC developer, and this is where I had an argument with a friend of mine who's really into PC gaming. He was like, well, you need to upgrade your PC every 2 or 3 years. I'm like, look, even though a lot of these PC developers get kickbacks from NVIDIA or AMD or whoever's graphic card there to push the boundaries of a graphics card,
no doubt.
No developer is going to price themselves out the market and force people who want to play their game to have to spend $500 for a new graphics card. This ballpark, because the graphics card can range from $200, which is reasonable, all the way up to like $800 for those. This just came out this year, and that's like if you get like a rebate with it. And
Yeah, I know. I
like
spent. You don't want to know how much I spent on my
that
290Xs.
that can rip you off. I mean, that can really, like, no developer's going to price themselves at the market by basically giving you, like, people were talking to Bethesda. They're like, well, this game doesn't look that good because Bethesda want to get all those sales, right? Like, they don't want to put a console. And here's the thing I have to say about Bethesda games, even though they're very buggy and glitchy,
You can run them on low
they are
hardware.
not system intensive.
Yeah, you can run them on low hardware.
Yeah,
I mean,
they are not system intensive. As a matter of fact, Fallout 3 and 4, Fallout 3 in New Vegas run better on my old, like 3-year-old laptop than they do on my new beast of an Asus. Asus.
yeah, I mean, those are all 9.0 C DirectX games. I mean,
I
that's
have
where
to
they run
run
best.
XP compatibility, which is
Yeah.
so sad.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is, and even the new one and they're pushing this DirectX 12 with Microsoft, and I don't know why they're lying to consumers, telling them they're going to have a better experience when the reality is, if the game isn't programmed for a better experience, it doesn't matter how powerful your hardware is. AMD just recently released they just released their highest end graphics card ever. It actually beats the highest end GeForce
Until next year.
until next year.
Until
But
next year.
but the thing is, that card's going to be $800 approximately, right? And it,
Yep.
depending on the demand, this is how the graphics card industry works. Depending on the initial demand, if the demand outstrips the amount, the quantity, you know what the retailers do? They jack up the price like 100, 150
Yep.
bucks, 200 bucks, 300 bucks.
So there's not a run on the supply.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But you know what I think they do? They purposely limit the initial supply so it runs out, and then they jack up the price artificially
And here's the thing.
to satisfy that. And they
In 2 years,
a killing.
yeah, in 2 years, like, and here's the thing. Like, when you get a new graphics card, most of the games, like, if for gaming, most of the games that you're going to get aren't even built to be, like, optimized with that graphics card. So you're not going to be getting the best graphics in the world anyway.
Right. And that's the thing. That's the thing people don't understand is that the drivers are always behind the technology.
Yep.
Your drivers are always going to be behind, and not just that. The games when they're being coded and they're being designed, they're not being designed with the latest and greatest in mind.
They're being made for last year's stuff.
Yeah, that shit hasn't been released yet. So when you get these new games and these new graphics cards together, they're gonna run like shit. You're like, what the hell? I bought this $800 graphics card, $900 graphics card, and it's not even fucking giving me a solid experience.
And that's why I do not spend money like that on.
Yeah.
For me, like, I'll get a graphics card 2-3 years down the line that was top of the line 2 or 3 years ago, and then I'm like, okay, that's my upgrade. Like, I'm not doing all that, like, because you will go broke trying to buy new stuff and have it installed, because I don't know how to install it.
You can never, yeah. Well, that's the thing. I'm savvy with that, and I build systems on the side, for whoever wants to spend $3,000. But, if you want to spend $12,000, I can help you out with that too. But, the experience that you get from this is you're never gonna satisfy the reality where you look at your bank account, you just spent $3,000 and the experience isn't matching. You're like, holy shit, man! I spent $3,000.
Let me put this.
I gotta wait till next month's driver comes out to see if it gets better.
I got my PC. I spent $800 just for my PC. Now I'm not including how much I spent for the new monitor because I couldn't use the old monitor because this thing was too powerful. Now I got a rebate with mine. Okay. Nice. So basically, I paid like 50% of what it was really worth. Wow. So for all intents and purposes, this is a very powerful PC. Doesn't have 2 graphics cards. Very powerful, top of the line last year. Now this year, their new stuff came out. Not top of the line anymore. It's still pretty good.
You can still run Bethesda's games, and that's all you play anyway.
I can run everything. I ran Crisis on this thing at 720p, 60 frames per second, no slowdown. The problem is that you got a lot of people who think that in order for them to enjoy their games, it always everything has to be maxed out. I'm gonna tell you right now. Sometimes you max out settings on a game, whether it be PC or even on a console, and it destroys the entire experience because you'd rather have it be stable than be maxed out.
I've always told people it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what kind of hardware you have in there. If the game is buggy and if the game is not bug free or little to no bugs, game killing bugs, you're gonna have a poor experience. Your game will always run better, and I don't know why. I guess because of all the added stress you're putting on the system. And the game will always run better at a lower setting and at a lower frame rate if necessary. Because the higher the rate, the more pixels you're pushing out, the more graphic intensive settings you have, the more demanding it's going to be on the system, the more heat you're going to produce, right? And for some reason, if there's a hiccup here or there, it's going to cause a blue screen, and you're going to be pissed off. You're going to be seeing this driver DLL bullshit fucking code 00x033.
Now, I am lucky. I have not had either. I've not had my new PC blue screen of death on me because it is a PC. I don't know what a Mac does when it blue screens because I know it's different though.
I think it just freezes.
Yeah, it just freezes.
But you know,
I've never had those types of issues. Normally, for me, when a PC gets to the point where it starts blue screening a lot, there's death's door for me. So.
But Red, you just bought some titles off of Steam. I have like around 200 titles, and I can honestly say that I've played 90% of them because I'm an avid PC guy, but at the same time I'm a console guy as well.
Yeah.
But the fact is, you can't overlook some of these good sales, right? So
I can't. That's why I got a gaming PC because I was like, I got a gaming PC for 2 reasons, and then I'm gonna bounce because I don't have to get up early in the morning. I don't have to get up early in the morning. I can sleep in, but I'm still gonna bounce.
Okay.
I got a PC for 2 reasons. First of all, Steam sales. Well, first of all, Steam sales were a huge part of it. And just humble gaming, humble bundle, and like good old games. Like you can PC gaming has a high initial buy-in, but what you make by getting stuff on sale later on kind of balances it out. Secondly, after seeing what Microsoft and Sony had to offer this gen, and like they're really bragging. Like with Microsoft, it's even worse because a lot of their exclusive games are also going to be on Windows. So it's like.
You don't need an Xbox One.
I have no incentive to own your system.
Yeah, you don't need an Xbox One. And that's what I'm saying. When people say, oh, you have an Xbox One, I said, yeah, I got one on my computer.
Yeah, and I mean, it's
my computer.
I mean, Sony, their E3 they were bragging about a lot of multiplats, and I'm like, that's going to be on PC too. Even their indie games, No Man's Sky, that's going to be on PC for like $30. I can probably buy it when it comes out.
Yeah, but most of those games that they debuted were games that are going to be out 3 years out, if that.
Well, that's terrible. That is horrific.
I mean, all these games they showed is hype. That's all. It's hype content, and a lot of the PlayStation fans are going to be very disappointed because when Christmas comes around and the Xbox guys are hooting and hollering about how many great experiences they have, and that's if, and that's a big if Halo 5 isn't full of glitches and bugs. That's going to piss off a lot of guys, but I'm just saying they're going to be really pissed because there's nothing really to play but multiplats, like you're saying. Nobody really brags about that anymore, if anything. I mean, early on in the generation, they were talking about all these multiplats, but now I think the reality is starting to set in.
Can you believe this? There's now ads in Steam.
Oh yeah, yeah, for Batman. You're talking about the Batman?
No, there's like literally pop-up ads in Steam.
Oh
When
man,
you're playing, or when you're just got it open.
Oh, like when you got it open and you're looking at stuff, they have ads. That is totally messed up, dude.
you have a pop-up?
Yeah.
Well, I haven't had that.
They've always had ads for like the games that are
No,
on
this wasn't
Steam.
for game. This was like a commercial for some other stuff.
Yeah, fuck.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Steam, damn you.
Hey, what happened to Castlevania 2 Lords of Shadow? Man, I was so disappointed with that. I was so
I'll
disappointed.
tell you what happened. They gave that game to people who really didn't know anything about
Because I like Lord of Shadows Part 1. I like that. I like that one. I beat that one. That was actually a very good experience.
the problem is that they gave that game to someone who really did not like. Here's the problem. You don't give Castlevania to people who don't appreciate what Castlevania is about.
Mercury Steam.
Right.
I'm telling you something. Mercury Steam was so pumped up, and they were being hyped as the next, AAA developer when they released Lords of Shadow, and they came out to critical acclaim and high reviews. Everybody was like thinking, "Oh man, Lords of Shadow 2 is gonna be awesome," and then that shit fucking flopped because it was just horribly done.
Well, I mean, what happened was, like I said, people who didn't appreciate what Castlevania. Like, how are you going to make a Castlevania game and you don't have any of the classical Castlevania music?
Nothing.
Because music of the Castlevania music, it's like having a Legend of Zelda game. You don't hear the iconic Legend of Zelda songs.
Yeah.
Like, or a Mario game, you don't hear the Mario theme songs. Or you play Metroid and you don't have those haunting tunes that we've come to associate with Metroid. Like music in a video game is very important. How can you have a Castlevania game? You don't have Bloody Tears. You don't have Vampire Killer. It becomes a God of War clone.
And that's going on to real quick. Konami. What the fuck's happened with Konami?
They make more money on
the Plinko machines.
Yeah, they make more money with their machines and with what's it called?
The gambling,
yeah,
kiosk.
in their health thing than they do in
Damn. So what do you think? What do you think they're going to do with their franchises? Because they have a lot of franchises.
I tell you what they're going to do, like they did with their pachinko machines. They're going to make Castlevania pachinko games and Contra pachinko games and Mystical Ninja Goemon pachinko games and Bomberman pachinko games.
Oh, they got Bomberman and Mystical Ninja. I love those fucking games. Those games were so amazing. Oh my god.
That's right. They're already doing that, and they're going to do it, and they're going to make a lot of money. And until there's a crash, because there's every industry that has a bubble always has a crash.
Yeah, there's too many bubbles.
There's going to be a crash, and Konami's going to be like, "Oh snap! Maybe we should have stayed in gaming."
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the cell phone bubble crash. Cell phone games, those microtrans games.
I'm also suspecting that how people buy a cell phone every 6 months and shit. That shit's gonna come to an end. Cause look at HTC, man. They're getting ready to fucking close shop because
Well, they came out with the M8 and then they came out with the M9 again.
No, it was the M7, M8, and M9.
And I have an HTC M8, so.
Same here. I'm fine with that. I don't need anything else. I'm good with that. That's getting out of control too, man. And these carriers, man, I tell you, they nickel and dime your ass. Now they got that payment plan bullshit, man. There's so much bullshit out there. Consumers need to wisen up. They need to wise up. Stop getting ramrodded. All right, guys, I'm gonna end it up. I'm gonna go to sleep because it's 10 o'clock in my time. I don't know what time it is.
It is 10 o'clock for me too. I'm gonna bounce. It was fun talking with you guys.
No, I appreciate you guys showing up, William.
Yeah, no problem.
If I do another one like this, and hopefully you guys join.
Sure, sounds good.
All right, guys.
Later.
Peace.
Peace.